Hey, today we're going to do a quick tutorial on how to create contrast in your artwork. Now, though there are many different ways to create contrast, we're just going to talk about a few like colors and tones, soft versus hard edges, shapes and sizes, and textures. And hopefully this will give you a very basic foundation to help you achieve that contrast that you're looking for. Okay, let's get started. Okay, for this portion of the video, I'm going to show you how to do contrast using colors. So this is just a standard color wheel. And to create contrasting colors, all you have to do is pick one color and then the color opposite it. Blue, orange, green, red, and so forth. And those two colors will be contrasting. So let's go ahead and take a look. We're going to use green and red and see how it looks. Okay, I'm just going to start by laying down a little bit of green. And then red right next to it. Now you can see that these two colors, because they're opposite on the color wheel, they contrast pretty sharply. And a way to control the amount of contrast between them is to adjust their tones. So basically making each color lighter or darker. So a light green with a light red, a darker green with a light red, and so forth. So you can just experiment with the tones of each one to get the type of contrast that you're looking for in your piece. So for example, here's a little bit lighter green. Just adding a little bit of white to it, bringing it down, tone down. And doing the same with red. So you get a much softer contrast than if both colors were at full value. Okay, and here's an example of a full value green, and we'll just put it next to our light red. And on the flip side, we can go ahead and do our full valued red. Put it next to a lighter valued, opposite color, lighter valued green. Okay, so that was a quick look on how we use opposite-ended colors on the color wheel to create contrast in our work. Now, if you're looking for a more subtle contrast, not as sharp as, say, the opposite ends, just simply choose a main color and then use colors that are closer to it on the color wheel. And you'll still get contrast, but it'll be much more subtle. Now, another method to create contrast in your work is to use sharp lines and soft lines. So, for instance, a sharp line would be an area where the edges of two different colors or shapes, objects, things like that, create a very sharp, defined edge between the two. That's a sharp line. And whenever you have sharp lines in your works, it will create contrast and it will draw the eye. So if you're looking for that, that's a good way to do it, that type of contrast. Create very defined edges where two things come together. Now, if you don't want such sharp contrast between the two objects in your piece, simply make this sharp line softer by blending the two together. For instance, let's try it here. Remember, whenever there's sharp contrast between two things, it will draw the eye to that position. So if you don't necessarily want the viewer's eye to be drawn to that position, simply turn sharp lines into soft lines by slowly blending out the sharpness, making it a little bit softer, like such. And it will cut down on the contrast. Okay, another method to create contrast in your pieces is with shapes and sizes. Now this one might be a little bit more intuitive, but we'll go over it anyways. So say you're creating a piece and it's basically got a lot of the same types of shapes already in it. Maybe you're painting trees or something like that. It's got a lot of vertical lines, and you're missing some of the contrast that you want in your picture. One way to change things up and to create some contrast is to vary the shapes in your piece. So maybe from all vertical lines, maybe there's a crooked line, and that will create contrast in your piece. Maybe from all skinny lines, next to skinny lines, maybe there's a thicker line, and that will create contrast in your piece. And that is how we can use shapes and sizes in our piece. So this next method is one of my favorite ways to create subtle contrast in your pieces, and that is through texture. So I've already laid down this base coat of blue, and there's no varying texture on the surface of this coat. And so one way to vary the contrast or get contrast is through varying the texture. So if I did this with a regular brush, maybe I can use a palette knife and go back over it and create some texture with this palette knife. And that will create contrast. Though be it subtle, it still will be contrast. Now, another way to vary the texture of your piece is to use different materials altogether. For instance, here's some gold foil. And if we apply some of this gold foil to our piece, just like that, obviously, there's contrast for the different colors, but now because of the texture of this gold foil in the flat paint, that creates contrast as well. Another instance would be using oil pastels, which I like to use, and that creates a texture on the top as well. When the oil pastel goes on top of a flat surface or even bumpy surface, it creates a cool texture which gives you contrast. Okay, now I'm just going to make a quick little abstract thumbnail painting, trying to combine some of these methods that we just went over to give you an idea of how to put them all together possibly. Okay, I think that'll do it. One thing to keep in mind when you're trying to create contrast in your artwork is to use it sparingly. If you have too many sharply contrasting objects in your artwork, it will appear too busy to your viewer and will not draw them in as easily. So, use it wisely. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching.